Welcome to Meaningful Activities to Generate Interesting Classrooms, Section 4, Part 3, Positioning Activities, Practice. We continue our discussion as to how to purposefully position the activities we use in a lesson so that they have the greatest impact. In this section, we are going to focus on practice activities that provide multiple pathways to learning. Please locate page 113, Section 4, Part 3, Positioning Activities, Practice. Note the quotations on this page. Remember, both of these quotations address the importance of designing practice activities in which students learn in more than one way, providing multiple pathways to learning. In order to be effective, practice activities must actively involve and engage learners in the content. It is important for students to practice the concepts and skills they are learning. However, as the quotation indicated, practice must be delivered in more than one way. Please locate page 114, Practice Activities, Multiple Means of Engagement, Action, and Expression, and read the first paragraph on this page, highlighting points that are most relevant to you. Notice this cartoon in which the administrator says, "You and your classmates hardly moved a muscle during Mr. Jones's demonstration on the use of hammers." The student replies, "That's because he nailed all of our pants to the benches before you arrived." Practice activities, in particular, should require active learning, not passive learning, as worksheets tend to be. If you've always done things one way, today be willing to do things a different way. I have a story I would like to share with you. A principal was taking the new assistant principal on a tour of the school. The principal couldn't wait to take the new assistant principal past the rooms of his best teachers. "Listen to this," he said as they approached the door to one classroom. "You can hear a pin drop. I never have any problems with the students from this class." He pointed out several other quiet classrooms and made the same generalization about the students. The new assistant principal began to realize that the administrator equated good teaching and quality education with the noise level of the classroom. However, the classroom where the students were up and moving around, actively engaged in activities, seemed to her where the most learning was actually happening. While classroom management is essential, a quiet classroom does not necessarily mean that learning is occurring. Our classroom should be an organized hive of activity and productive interaction. Please take a look at the second paragraph on page 114 and continue highlighting relevant points. So let's take a look at the multiple pathways for learning to which these paragraphs refer. As we review this information, continue to highlight the most important points. The first component of an effective practice activity is multiple means of engagement, choice. We want to design practice activities that provide choice, allow for personal preferences and interests, and utilize a variety of grouping formats. In what ways do you provide choice when students are working on content? Do you let your students write essays on a topic of interest to them? Do you let your students choose to do the even or odd math problems? Do you use a lot of flexible grouping? Do you sometimes group students by readiness, sometimes by learning style, or do you let students choose? When students have autonomy and choice, it is more motivating and engaging for them, and they are more likely to put effort into practice. The second component of an effective practice activity is multiple means of action, movement, and hands-on. Remember that we want active learners, not passive learners. Adding movement and hands-on experiences makes learning more activity-based. Activities that are hands-on involve fine motor skills such as manipulatives, 3D items, card sorts, cutting, gluing, making items, playing piece card games, and doing experiments. Activities that have movement utilize large muscle movement. Activities such as centers, conversation stations, round robin, games, races, acting, role-playing, scooting, moving from one desk to another, or performances. Movement activities can span a wide spectrum of activity from minor movement, such as conversation station, to major movement, such as races. Incorporating movement and hands-on elements is one of the best ways to engage learners in practice activities. The third component of an effective practice activity is multiple means of expression, creativity. This includes activities that incorporate creativity and innovation and utilize various ways to express information and outcomes such as drawing, illustrating, making posters, acting, presenting, designing, constructing a diorama, performing, demonstrating, or using technology-oriented formats. As the introduction stated, we want to avoid repetitive and boring practice. By using multiple means of engagement, action, and expression, we maximize student involvement and enhance their desire to practice and learn. What are your thoughts, insights, and experiences regarding this information? Do you have problems getting your students to do seat work? Do you usually do worksheets? Do they do the same activity every day? Does this give you choice and the option of including as many of these pathways as is appropriate? Do you find hands-on activities really beneficial in enhancing student understanding and achievement? Remember, brain research shows that the more pathways one utilizes when learning, the more pathways are available for long-term memory and recall. This is how we motivate students and cement learning, by providing practice that involves multiple means of engagement, action, and expression. Effective practice activity includes at least one of these three components. The first practice activity we will examine is an activity that enhances students' understanding of vocabulary. It demonstrates how we can make learning vocabulary more interactive and engaging. Please locate page 115, Activity Vocabulary Wordplay. In this activity, students take a vocabulary word and represent it pictorially in a way that illustrates the word's meaning. For example, you will notice that the letters of the word snuggle are placed close together to represent the meaning of snuggle. Totem pole is written vertically to represent an actual totem pole. Melody is written with a musical note. Please go to Canvas, Modules, Section 4, Part 3, Vocabulary Wordplay. Choose one word from the wordplay list on page 115 and one vocabulary word from your own curriculum. Design the word in a way that pictorially illustrates the word's meaning as shown in the examples. Post both words in the discussion area. Optionally, comment on a classmate's post in a meaningful way. Please be sure to post your 2 vocabulary wordplay words to Canvas, Modules, Section 4, Part 3, Vocabulary Wordplay. Optionally, comment on a classmate's post in a meaningful way. How did this activity provide multiple means of engagement, action, or expression? Engagement. Were you able to choose the words you wanted to illustrate? Action. Was it hands-on because you could draw and then share with classmates? Expression. Were you able to use your creativity and your own unique ideas as to how to illustrate the meaning? Please locate page 116, Classroom Connections. What other ideas do you have for pictorially illustrating content-oriented information? Could students illustrate a scene in a novel or a historical event? Illustrate different steps in a process or procedures. Create a collage or use technology to find pictures. Please take a moment to review the activity assets on page 116 and debrief this activity. Remember, this activity is a perfect example of how teachers can make practicing something as dry as vocabulary more engaging and fun. It also provides multiple pathways to learning so memory and recall are enhanced. Creativity engages the whole brain and deepens the understanding of concepts. Let's continue our exploration of practice activities. Next, you will experience an activity called Scoot, which adds movement to practice. Please locate page 117, Activity Scoot, Double Trouble, and read the introductory paragraphs, highlighting points that are relevant to you. Please go to Canvas Modules, Section 4, Part 2, Scoot for the revised activity directions and your partner groups. You and your partner or partners will use the editable Google Doc assigned to your group for your answer sheet. Using the Google Slides presentation, your task is to match the person in the picture with 2 of the trouble statements listed as A through M on the double trouble answer sheet. Be sure to come to agreement on your answers. Write the card number next to each of the 2 corresponding trouble statements. For example, card 1 is a picture of a taxi driver with trouble statement E, I got a bad tip, indicated as one of the answers. Write the card number 1 next to trouble statement E. Please do not move to the next slide in the narrated PowerPoint until you and your group members have completed the activity. To what other trouble statement would this taxi driver picture relate? Write the card number 1 next to M, I had a breakdown, as well. Once you have identified which 2 cards go with each trouble statement, underline or highlight the word in the trouble statement that represents the double meaning or connotation. Please post a comment in the discussion area to let your instructor know your group is finished. Please locate appendix page 16 and check your answers. How did this activity provide multiple means of engagement, action, or expression? Engagement. Were you allowed to work with a partner? Action. Was there movement as you scooted from card to card? Expression. Was there any expression? No. Everyone used the same graphic organizer to record their answers. What topic in your curriculum could you use as a Scoot activity? Perhaps math or science problems, definitions that require a vocabulary word, states that require a capital, measurement or fraction conversions, identify historical events, grammar and punctuation problems, or description of characters in a story. Please take a moment to review the activity assets on page 118 to debrief this activity. Remember, Scoot works best with short right or wrong answers. You can add double learning by asking students to create the problems at each station. The movement also serves as an energizer to oxygenate the brain and improve memory. Students with a kinesthetic style can think and learn better when moving. Movement improves their cognitive ability and retention. The rest of this session will be for you to work independently through the material. There will now be narrated PowerPoints on Canvas, Module Section 4, Part 3, to walk you through the rest of today's activities. Please be sure to post the activities in the discussion area or submitted assignment area before our next class. Remember, even though these activities are not graded, they must be completed to report your successful completion to your university partner. Immediately after the conference call, you will go to Canvas Modules Section 4, Part 3, Positioning Activities Practice, where you will reflect on multiple pathways of learning, including participating in 6 activities. The third video focuses on classroom and reflection connections, where you will keep track of games that you are excited to use in your own classroom. The fourth video helps us reflect on activity sharing session 3. Finally, the future preparations video reminds us of upcoming activities we will complete. Let the good times begin. If there are any questions while you work, please call or email your instructor. This concludes Section 4, Part 3, Introduction Conference Call. Please continue to Module Section 4, Part 3, Positioning Activities Practice, Multiple Pathways of Learning.